bunch of cyborgs with treads for feet. You know what?
That sounds like who are the guys who used to fight the X-Men?
Oh, the Reavers.
The Reavers. That sounds like the Reavers.
Yeah.
Which would have been cool if that had happened at that point.
The Blade Master, a pure action fantasy starring Miles O'Keefe.
Oh, good Lord, Miles O'Keefe.
Miles O'Keefe as the Blade Master.
The Bo Derek Tarzan.
Leon wants to see it. That's right. After the Fall of New York, I've seen this one. It's pretty wretched. Michael Sopkiw. I don't know.
Who the hell was that?
He's the guy who survives the
Snake
Fall of New York.
Plissken?
Yeah, pretty much. He's Snake Plissken, but it says he is the best action hero since Clint Eastwood.
Okay, but what I want to know here. Okay, you guys still got more. They're still coming.
There's one more. There's one more, and this one is mostly notable because David Carradine is the star, and there's a woman with 4 breasts.
I've seen this one.
The Warrior and the Sorceress.
I've seen this.
Does that predate Total Recall?
Predates Total Recall.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
They were
right?
way ahead. Innovations in the number of breasts.
That's thought that Paul Verhoeven was the guy who came up with, what if, all right, just stay with me here, what if there was a woman with 3 boobs, and they went, wow, you're a fucking genius, Verhoeven.
Well, it's funny, like, of all the things that are in Total Recall, that's the most famous thing about it.
Yes, it is.
I know, right? Isn't that sad?
See you at the party, Richter. Bring the girl with 3 boobs.
I was just like that, screw you!
And then I love it when they fall out of the surface of Mars and they all look like Tex Avery
Oh,
cartoons.
yeah. That's great. Right. Once they put the oxygen back in and all their features go back to
Like,
normal.
oh, everything's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
You love the bad movies. Give us the embarrassing one. What's the one that's so bad you can't believe you like it?
Okay, Friday the 13th, Part 4.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who like it, but only because it's a Friday the 13th.
It's Corey Feldman.
It's labeled.
Yeah.
It's like people who
Right.
wear Jordache jeans. Or
Is that the one where he shaves his own head to look like Jason?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Jason, look over here. I'm you now.
Yeah, it didn't make a hell of a lot of
I always
sense.
thought the second one was the worst one. because
No,
of
the second one's the best one.
The sheer amount of fake scares drives me fucking up the wall.
Yeah, no, the second Friday the 13th was the
I
best
remember
one.
loving the third one just because it was in 3D.
The
I
third
like
one
the
is
third one,
really
and
bad.
I like the 7th one.
Wait,
The one with the girl with the psychic powers who fights back using her telekinetic powers.
I'm
That
gonna
was awesome.
punch you right in the mouth.
Oh, come on,
right
that
now.
was
No,
good.
it's horrible. Jason versus Carrie.
Yeah,
It's almost as bad as Part 8. Almost, but not quite.
I don't even know what
Part
was it?
8's Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh yeah, that was bad because he doesn't even show up in there.
I know he's like not even in Manhattan until like the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Even like Jason takes a sail.
Yeah, exactly.
That
He's
was-
on that boat, and
Jason
then
on the Love Boat.
and then toxic waste. Ooh, spoiler. Toxic waste washes over him, and suddenly he's reverted back to Kid Jason. It's like
Oh really?
toxic waste, the
don't even
rejuvenating
remember.
powers of toxic waste.
I love how back in the 80s, everything was all based on toxic waste and nuclear war.
Oh, I know.
Now everybody gets their, like in the 60s, everybody got their powers from radiation. In the 80s, it was
Yeah.
toxic waste. Now it's all genetic tampering.
Well, global warming. I think genetic tampering was like late 90s, early 2000s. Well, no, there's
No,
still,
all the
there's still some
all the
genetic-
superhero movies, it's all genetic
It's
tampering.
always been that way, though. It's always like the horror movies, superhero movies, any fantasy stuff.
It's
always
what's the science of the day that we're scared of?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look back at the old black and white, science fiction movies of the 50s, it was all like nuclear
Yeah,
radiation.
it was radiation, atomic
Yeah,
radiation.
Exactly, every single
That's
time.
how Spider-Man was born, a spider that was affected by radiation. Hey, I always wondered, like, if he would go back to his class reunion, it'd be like, well, dude, you're the only one who didn't die from cancer. Because we had that open demonstration in front of all you kids. We're really sorry about that.
I always laugh because what's like when people do really stupid shit they saw in the movie. Like any vaguely intelligent person would never even think of doing.
Right.
And I'm always like, what a bunch of idiots. That being said, if there was like a local museum that had a breed of venomous radioactive spiders when I was a kid, I would have been the first to jump head first into that tank.
Yeah, when you were a dumb kid,
Well,
you
yeah.
probably jumped off the roof of your house with a bath towel around your neck too.
Well, no, because birds take off from the ground. I was well aware there's a separation of fantasy and stuff, but the thing is, the radiation thing, that was confusing enough that it
Right.
seemed like it was mildly plausible that maybe there's something to that. The whole
Sure.
mutating is telling me what little you understand of science at that point. But, the guys who, like, you always hear the stories about people doing the stupid shit like that. These guys are guys who are in, like, late high school or college. Like, okay, that's just natural selection in action.
True.
The last girl I was hanging out with as a friend and trying to have sex with, but failing, did not like The Evil Dead 2. And I
Who was this?
I can't say. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Evil Dead 2's an acquired taste.
She hadn't been born when that movie came out.
No, I know. That's true. Thank you so much for making
confession.
the liver spots pop out.
Sad confession of a horror fan. I did not until recently, like within the last 6 months, like Evil Dead 2.
What?
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah.
Well, that explains all the terrible movies in your.
Yeah. I loved Evil Dead 1. Loved Army of Darkness. Did not like.
Okay. There we go. There's one. Army of Darkness.
Oh, really?
I fucking hate Army of Darkness.
So you hate Army of Darkness?
I hate Army of Darkness. It's just an incredibly silly movie that doesn't have like Evil Dead 2. There's something smart and just kind of weird about the comedy in it.
Sure.
It's almost kind of slight. It's almost winking at you.
Evil Dead 2 is very much Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Right.
And that it's the black gallows humor.
Yes, but then so I was all excited when Army of Darkness came out. It was right around my birthday. Got a bunch of friends. Let's go see this movie. And I sat there watching it like I was watching the Banana Splits or the goddamn Croft Super Show.
Well, it's a Harryhausen movie. It's a goofy. It's like the Three Stooges meet Harryhausen.
Yeah, well, that just does not appeal to me. The jokes are very obvious, and the thing is, you won't find a bigger Xena fan than me. But Army of Darkness, I've watched it since. I've watched it since with like a different sensibility, and still do not like the movie at all.
I didn't like it at first. I didn't like it from the moment I saw the ads because I knew it was Evil Dead 3. Which a lot of people don't even know. There are so many fans of that movie who do not know that Army of Darkness is a sequel to Evil Dead. Believe it or not.
No. To watch the two, I wouldn't necessarily know that either.
Well, yeah. And I wanted Evil Dead 1. And when I was growing up, I thought, okay, Evil Dead 1, terrifying, although, I don't know, it's kind of corny now, but Evil Dead 1 terrifying, Evil Dead 2.
a bit dated.
Yeah. The Three Stooges remake Evil Dead 1 is what Evil Dead 2 is. And then Army of Darkness goes off in a totally different direction. I just thought, it just keeps getting worse and worse. It was like watching the House movies, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I saw Evil Dead 2 first. And I thought it was just brilliant because I saw exactly what they were going for. Yeah, there's the Three Stooges, the whole Warner Brothers Tex Avery thing. I mean, it's just like so much comic stuff mixed with just gigantic amount of gore.
Right.
You know, and just really brilliant camera work. I mean, who had ever seen anything like the whole
Exactly.
Demon Through the Woods effect cam? I mean, it was laugh out loud funny at something you'd never seen before.
I watched it again recently and loved it.
Okay, fair enough. But the first one, I went back and watched the first one after that and said, okay, I see how this turned into 2, but to be honest, this officially makes Evil Dead 2 the best remake of all time in my book.
Okay.
Army of Darkness is the weakest of the 3, though, because they were like, we love the Three Stooges so much. I mean, it was almost like the Phantom Menace of the Evil Dead films.
Wow. I wouldn't have said that, but I totally agree with you.
But in the sense of where they were going with it, they like didn't understand what fans like about the series, except for the one-liners. Which the one thing about Army of Darkness, best one-liners of all
that
three
that
of the
film
films.
is what made Bruce Campbell the icon that he is today. Love it or hate it, you know. Which the Bruce Campbell train, I think, is officially over.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, you did the Old Spice commercials. That's kind of cute, but...
Well, he's got that movie, the Bruce, where he's playing himself, and there's an actual zombie outbreak.
Yeah.
Which sounds like it could be
maybe it's just me, but I don't know. It seems like there's another geek icon who's got to be...
I don't know. Shatner at 50 could still get away with Khan. I think Bruce Campbell in his 40s.
I don't know.
Yeah, but he was Captain Kirk, dude. You can't touch that.
Well, I agree with you that Captain Kirk is the very paragon of coolness. Even today, if he came back in his 70s as Kirk, I'd buy it.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to see George Milius direct more films that make me feel like I have hair on my chest.
Yeah?
Even though Conan had no hair on his chest.
Yeah, that's true. I've always been confused about the masculinity thing with no hair on the chest.
George Milius, I mean, Red Dawn. And
You're confused? Let me straighten it out for you. Gay.
No, but it's everywhere. It was going on then. It's going on now. They fucking wax their chests. Dudes, really? Since when are girls not into, like, hair on guys' chests? I mean...
You know what? Girls aren't now because we've all been neutered and turned into metrosexuals.
It's a Fight Club message.
Yes.
Is that what a real man looks like?
You know what? I was gonna argue that like, well, the Spartans would do it because it's aerodynamic and it would help them fight better. But let's get real. The Spartans were like the gayest warriors in the world. And I ain't talking about the 300 movie.
No, we're talking about in real life.
Yeah, in real life. If you study the history of the Spartans, like the Spartans would just be men alone who would like the teachers. The teacher warriors would have sex with the young warriors.
Yeah.
And at some point, they knew they had to propagate the society. So they would have to have a period of getting reintegrated to women. So their girlfriends or wives have to show up with their hair cut down short like a boy. So the guy could slowly come back from loving men back into liking women again.
Really?
They
Oh,
were
yeah.
encouraged to sleep with each other because they thought it encouraged brotherhood and that whole, like, we're a team type spirit.
Can we talk about Spider-Man again?
He's being regarded in history as some of the toughest warriors ever. So
Yeah.
that being said, don't mess with a gay dude.
And I just wanted to note it that, like, when I talk about 300 being gay, it ain't me being homophobic.
Yeah, we're not insulting.
That's me being a historian.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, even if that had never happened, to point out that a bunch of heavily greased up dudes with shaved chests in this movie that has long, loving shots of their crotch and their nipples.
And their rippling muscles.
I'm not saying it's bad that it's a gay film.
No.
But it is a gay film.
Yes,
Regardless.
yes.
I mean, nobody's going to freak out when I say La Cage aux Folles. Oh, that's totally gay. It's like, what? You're homophobic. No, dude, it actually is.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, somebody asked me about, you remember the old show on MTV, The Max?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do. It
I
was
want-
Sam Keith.
Oh,
It was
Sam Keith.
Sam Keith was the creator of the Max. It was one of the first comic series to come out of Image Comics.
Yes, and it was a brilliant series.
Yes.
And in fact, if I remember correctly, the animation was almost exactly the comic book.
Yeah.
Not only was it exactly the comic book, but they actually did some different things with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very innovative.
I didn't get
was
it.
I was surprised.
I didn't get it. I mean,
You didn't get that channel, or you watched it and didn't understand it.
I didn't understand it. I read the comics and I got the channel and I didn't understand it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Really?
I gave up on it too soon, though, I think.
You didn't get the comic or you didn't get the animated?
Well, I read like the first couple issues of the comic and watched the first couple issues of the cartoon, and I was like, the is and the whatever.
Well,
See,
he's
I
a-
gave
and
up
then
on the
honestly,
comic.
and then I went back to reading Youngblood. So
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
he's a homeless guy who's got giant spiked middle fingers. He's this giant Hulk-sized dude. Who
does
wears
he
this
like turn
purple
into
outfit.
this thing, or is
Well,
he?
he's kind of mildly retarded, and he lives in two worlds. He lives in the world where he lives in cardboard boxes and whatever.
And then another one where he's a blogger on a movie site. Is this about you?
No, that other thing earlier was about me. The gay movie thing, that was about me. He lives in another world where he's this great sort of force of the wild hero thing. And one of the crux of the story is, which world is true? Are they both true?
Okay.
Is this all in his head, isn't it? I mean, but there is no denying in the story that he is one gigantic motherfucker with
Yeah.
spikes coming
I
out of
did
the middle
not
of his
give
hand.
this enough of a chance because it sounds really cool.
You
Actually,
really
I've got
did.
the original
And-
issues too that
and
I
the
haven't
thing
even
is,
read.
I
you
can't
know.
fault you because it does start that way, and I remember feeling like that watching the first episode. But I just went ahead and hung with it because, like, hey, it's an animated cartoon about a superhero. I'll watch a couple of them.
Sure.
And by the third episode, I was really into it. I was like,
Okay.
oh, I can't wait for the next episode.
And this was MTV when they were still trying interesting.
Liquid
Yes.
TV.
Remember
yeah.
when the MTV's other shows were good?
Yeah.
The Max was really good, and it ended too soon, although they did actually give it an ending. But it's still never come out on DVD.
You guys have me intrigued now. I mean, I remember I was buying all those first issues, of the Image stuff, and I wasn't even reading all of them.
Spectator.
I totally was.
Did I say spectator? I meant speculator.
Speculate. I know what you mean. I totally killed the industry. That was my fault.
Thank you.
I was like, holoform, glow in the dark fold out cover.
Yeah.
I'll have 3. And I hate to promote this, but go to a sci-fi convention or something, and you can find it on DVD.
Oh, yeah, there's always the bootleg guys who have
Yeah.
cop
Maybe
tapes of everything.
Even meet an only mildly overweight girl who will be sexually interested in you.
That's a stretch, but
Maybe, yeah. They're kind of a rare commodity.
she's probably a cutter.
You have sex with her, and the next day you look at the sheets, it got blood on them. You're like, what the hell? And she's carving your name into her arm. If I had a nickel, I'll tell you.
Is that's not normal?
This is something I know you guys will want to talk about, is Robert Kirkman, which is a sadly unappreciated guy in comics.
I think he is dedicated to kicking me squaw in the nuts every time I read Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
He wants me to wince every time I turn the page. It's the George Romero universe. No bones about it. It really is. But, he'll get you somewhat comfortable in the status quo. But then, as of late, he has just been going all out.
I would say it's that George Romero universe, except not the least bit cheesy. As a matter of fact, it's almost like if you
okay.
took the George Romero universe and mixed it with Lost. because lately watching Lost, it reminds me of that more than
How so?
anything. Just in how, like, the character of Jack on Lost makes me think of Rick, this guy who's the leader of these people trying to get them through this trauma with no end in sight.
And all they do is fuck with him and question his shit.
Question his shit. He's starting to lose it, as anybody would, but he's held it together longer than anybody else could have possibly. Yeah. And at every turn, I mean, the thing with both, even with both situations, is it just at times just seems like there's no hope of a resolution.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, okay, there's no hope, but you still have to press on. You have families, you have all these different people with different personalities who are all very realistic. And somehow we have to keep continuing and try to make it through this hopeless situation.
About that book is
I've read it
constantly is, oh shit, I can't believe they just did that.
To be honest, the last one I read, it was so bleak, I wasn't sure I wanted to continue.
That was puppy dogs and rainbows. I swear to God, after reading the first issue, I called my mom. I put my head in my hands and I just went, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I was seriously wincing on every page.
Oh my God.
And I watched Cannibal Holocaust a couple of times. I love The Exorcist, I'm reading this and I'm just going, no fucking way.
Wow.
I mean, it is brutal. And by the end of it, you're like, he didn't just do that. He did not just do that.
Wow.
It is just, I mean, I want to say apocalyptic, but that's almost...
Well, it is an apocalypse.
Yeah,
comic,
exactly.
So,
It is the most bleak comic book I've ever read in my entire life, but it is so perfectly executed. A lot of his Marvel stuff has fallen flat for me.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel Zombies thing, that was done after the first series.
I think the Marvel Zombies thing was a great idea for a one-shot. Like one series, whatever.
I am shocked that that's continuing on.
I can't believe they keep doing, and they're tying it into the regular universe.
Are they
it's
really?
Like, oh yeah, no, dude, it all started in Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Oh, well, that's not
right,
the regular
and that was
universe,
cool.
though.
Yeah,
that was
well,
cool then.
I guess it was cool when it happened as that little thing, like, oh, here's this parallel universe.
That's what I
But
mean.
Then it turned into this whole other thing.
Well, now they've got Marvel Apes, which got announced
oh,
at
I just saw that.
New York
yeah.
Comic Con. Yeah.
Marvel Apes,
which
really,
someone suggested
really
as a
just saw that.
joke.
There are two projects I've always really felt would make the ultimate series on HBO. What they do, HBO does great, is take genre stuff and reinvent it and make it something special, make it character-driven, make it where you really care about these people, but make it shocking.
Sure.
Walking Dead is all about. I mean, that
man.
screams HBO series.
One I wouldn't
'cause
give for an HBO series of Walking
Well, you
Dead.
could do it low budget.
I see it more of a Showtime series myself.
Well, either, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
A network that could support something
Sure,
like that and
sure.
do it,
Okay.
give it justice. The other one, of course, is Preacher, which,
Oh,
God
yeah.
help me, I never want to get seen made into a movie. But a miniseries or a regular television series on a channel that can do rated R
Yeah.
stuff.
Mark Steven Johnson, I heard last time.
Oh yeah, me
I
too.
know, which is like,
Yeah.
you better not.
Better not.
You know what's funny is how, I mean, you got Garth Ennis on Preacher and Steve Dillon on art, right? Steve Dillon. Have you seen Steve Dillon's work on Wolverine Origins?
Yeah, I was buying that for a while.
It's god awful. It's god
I
awful.
love Steve Dillon's artwork. I really do.
I think it's well suited for certain things.
The brief
and
moments,
Wolverine
like
is
he's
not
done
one
a
of
couple
them.
things with Ultimate X-Men, which overall has been a disappointing comic, but he did a few issues
Kirkman.
that were so good.
That's-
yeah, but
Oh, Dylan's been drawing?
Yeah, he's
Ultimate
done
X-Men?
just a few issues here and there. He did a couple one-shots. And the stuff, like there was one that dealt with, like, the other mutants. Like the guys who are, like, you know, have two heads coming out of one body.
Right.
And
Well, that
the-
was kind of a Grant
the ones
Morrison
that
idea.
Xavier turns my way because I'm like, I have a beauty standard here.
Yeah, exactly.
At the Xavier Institute. We don't publicize it, but we're all filled up now at the Xavier Institute, but I want to give you a brochure for the Morlocks. They're always looking. And they'll take anybody.
They're really not picky.
Do you like darkness? Really? You got pale skin. Maybe you can.
Wow, you can channel the power of a star. That's great. But that's a serious overbite you got there, dude.
I know. Keith, can you do anything about that?
Have you seen our other students? Here's Jean Grey, Scott Summers, Bobby Drake. You don't quite fit in.
So maybe we should have held on to Rhett and A Man.
I will totally read a Rhett and A Man comic. That's like an Oxy ad on the back of, New Warriors or something.
I know. It's only because they keep eating those Hostess fruit pies. The JLA movie? Dead.
Dead as disco, huh?
Dead. I have said it.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I never for a second believed this movie would happen. If you look at it logically, Batman and Superman are still in play. Batman's movie is about to come out, and, finally there's some word that Superman is going to, have his second movie. You can't step on those two projects, which is what JLA totally would have been doing.
Yes.
Either it would have included Superman and Batman, which would have undercut their movies, or it wouldn't have included them, and it would have been all this talk about how they weren't there.
Which would have been stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like, okay, we heard so much about how Samuel Jackson was going to do a cameo as Nick Fury in the Iron Man movie. Perfect, seamless, could have worked, would have been so cool, and yet they cut it. Now, if they can't make something as small as that happen.
All right, so there's no more JOA, right?
Good.
Which we're all grateful for because it was just such bad casting. Both
Sure.
scripts
Terrible.
they presented were just absolutely, really, what in the fuck are you guys thinking?
I'm only sad in that, like, it gave me something to blog about when there was nothing going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a baby JLA geniuses or something.
No,
That could
don't
be cool.
even suggest that. Don't even say that out loud. You might make it
Legion of the Super Kids.
Yeah, no, the last thing I want to see is a Smallville JLA.
Well, there's already Avenger Babies cartoon coming out.
Are you
Avenger
serious?
Babies?
Oh, you haven't seen the previews for it?
Really?
It's a future where the Avengers all get wiped out. They all get killed, but their children raise up with sort of mutated mixtures of their powers, and it's all about
Seriously?
these preteen, like power pack aged kids dressed up like the previous Avengers fighting stuff.
I wonder if this is based on those Fisher Price toys.
Because
So
the
I
regular
may-
Avengers, they
I
had
can't
to
remember what it's actually
deviate from that?
I don't know what the point is. Somebody showed this to me on Spill and said, "Isn't this cool?" And I was like, "No, it decidedly is uncool." There is no fail. Massive
Cool is over
fail.
here, and this is somewhere
Cyrus
in
has
another
deleted you from the
continent.
board.
But here's the funny thing: the JLA failure. Joel Silver is the producer of that, has said, "Yeah, it's dead, but hey, guys, Wonder Woman, we're back on Wonder Woman."
There's another one that I think they should pick up that World War II idea of that script
yes.
that was floating around.
If they
and
want to go and do Wonder Woman, and what he's saying is we want to do as an origin story.
make her a big Rosie the Riveter dyke and move on.
The big arm, we can do it as an ad for Vaseline. But no, you're right. That's the only circumstances in which I want to see the Wonder Woman movie. If it's done taking place like in the 50s, then I would be interested in seeing
I'm all for that.
But anything else, like, really? I mean, Lucy Lawless is too old to play the part at this
Which
point.
sucks, because she would have been perfect.
She would have been perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, voiced the character in
Right.
New
Frontier.
New Frontier. What did you guys think of New Frontier?
We talked about
we covered
it
that
last
time.
week. We
Okay.
covered it with
Yeah.
our jizz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is now officially a bit sticky.
I can now officially never watch it again. I want to see a good Silent Hill movie.
What a great horror universe that
Yes.
I mean, fuck Resident Evil. Resident
Oh,
Evil
yeah.
is fun, right?
Yeah.
But, like, as a video game, it's just fun. It's only scary in the, boo, I scared you.
Exactly.
But Silent Hill
Silent
is
Hill gets
scary.
under your skin. Yeah.
It's scary the way Lovecraft was scary when you're like,
They owe a lot to
when you're
Lovecraft.
sitting and thinking about it, and you're like, the whole fear of the unknown thing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's some messed up
I
stuff.
really thought the recipe for Silent Hill would have made for a great movie, but I think they overused the scary imagery that they had, and it's like, if everything is scary, nothing is scary.
you
Kind of like the Amityville remake, how they're constantly bombarding you with imagery.
But that's the thing people don't get a lot about horror like this a lot of the time. Is that there's types of horror where you do play your hand, and there's types of horror where you don't. You just hide it. You just keep it in the background. You just give us glimpses because it doesn't work any other way.
Okay, give me an example of where it's worked where you do play your hand.
Well, you do play your hand when you're playing up for either camp value or a certain amount of humor.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't count, though.
You absolutely want to see as much as you see. Or if you have sort of like Darkman is a good example of one
Okay.
where it worked because there's a horror superhero film that has that whole, like, let's just show everything. Just crazy.
That's more of an action-adventure film. I mean, where do you show your hand when it's a scary film? Ever? Because I can't think of when you can't. With the exception of, the only one that I think that has done it successfully, and this is just off the top of my head, is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But they didn't even show you.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're
There's
right.
almost no. The only gore scene in that whole movie is when he accidentally cuts his own leg with the chainsaw.
As I have repeatedly stated over the years, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is gorier than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a
it
lot of
is.
people don't realize that because it's all implied.
But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the goriest things I ever didn't see, but made me feel like I was going to throw up, was the scene the girl's screaming and yelling, and he just so casually is picking her up as she's kicking and spitting and screaming.
Puts her on the meat
hangs her
hook.
on a meat hook.
It's
But
probably my second favorite film of all time,
wow, okay.
behind
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
behind Empire Strikes Back. I think so.
You're right. I don't think there is a great scary horror movie where they play their hand. And the problem is that all the ones where they try to do that, you're like, wow, I'm not scared if you show me every detail.
Well, I think Hitchcock was onto it when he said, don't show people what's in the bag. Threaten to show them what's in the bag.
Absolutely.
What's in the box?
What's in the fucking box?
While I'm here, I'm going to indulge, as you promised in the earlier part of the podcast, horror films. What are your three favorites? And if they're different from the three scariest, what are your three scariest?
Wow. See, because that's like one of those things.
Or five.
I guess I never really separate them in my head.
Okay.
Because, like my number one is also the scariest one, which is Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
That
okay.
movie terrifies me.
That's one of my favorites. I like that a lot.
And I think it's the whole, like, the uncertain reality stuff freaks me out. Like, what is
Sure.
real stuff? Really?
Yeah, that's a very underappreciated film, I think.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't realize it's a horror film.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. And it really is. It's just such a well-done horror film that it gets skipped. Number two is Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
Which, once again, totally opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, that's almost more of a comedy than it is a horror.
Sure, yeah.
But that being said, it's you're never going to find it filed outside of the horror section.
Yeah, right.
So there's a brilliant little film. And number three, of course, is The Exorcist.
Okay.
Which is,
Yeah.
I understand why more people than not in the
Sell
whole
out,
call
yeah.
it the number one horror film ever
Yeah,
made.
you're totally just copping out. You got to put that in there just for cool points, right?
It's true.
Everybody
They
puts
paid
that
me-
in there.
they
Everybody
paid me
puts that in
a lot
there.
of money. Well, what did you want me to say?
No, you're totally right. I completely agree with you on that.
I mean, Jaws would be number 4. Shit, what do you want?
Yeah, I don't know. Jaws is. I never put Jaws in there. Jaws is like an adventure movie, and I never rank it in the horror films, even though it does have some, terribly scary moments. But I just never. It never even occurs to me when I'm thinking of scary films
And
for
so
some
what
reason.
are yours? Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Well, my scariest and my favorites aren't necessarily the same, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'll just do my favorites: Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original Night of the Living Dead, and the original Halloween.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are old school. And the weird thing is, like, all three of those movies I enjoy, but I never really go, oh, man, I feel like rewatching them.
Oh man, I rewatch them all the time. I'm like Christian Bale in American Psycho. I put Texas Chainsaw Massacre on while I do sit-ups
But
and work on my
only
abs.
in that way, are you?
But only in that way. Yeah.
You don't like Genesis, right?
I do like Huey Lewis. Love
was
Huey
it
Lewis.
Huey Lewis in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Genesis was in there
In
as
the
well.
book, it was Genesis. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
So
It's Huey Lewis in the movie. Is that
I
what it is? Okay.
totally brutalize prostitutes while I'm watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ah, well, that's fine as long as you're not listening to Huey Lewis.
That's the power of love, man. All right, now, Mr. Not a big fan of horror movies.
We know there's
Leon.
some that you like.
Let's hear it.
Sure.
Your three favorites.
You guys want to separate favorites from scary.
Because my three scariest aren't my three favorites. I think The Exorcist is scarier than those three that I listed, but it's not necessarily my favorite.
Because, on the list of favorites, I got to put Fade to Black as maybe my favorite.
I haven't
Wow.
seen that in forever.
My whole family, we would gather around the TV and watch that movie to the point where we could all quote it.
Really?
Yeah, just loved it.
I know it's a cult classic.
That's an obscure one.
For anyone who
That's
doesn't know,
cool.
it's a guy who's obsessed with movies who goes around killing people who does he do it in the themes of some of the movies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it starts out almost accidentally, where he's dressed
Yeah.
as Dracula talking to a prostitute who gets scared and runs away from him. He chases her and she falls through a picket fence, which happens to stab her in the neck. And
Which doesn't that happen to all of us?
Yeah,
At one time or another.
Yeah,
Sure, they don't.
at
Yeah.
least
In
once
the
a
movie,
week.
They didn't actually have sex with a corpse afterwards in the movie, but
But it just goes from there. It just keeps sort of happening without him planning it up until the end. And he's living in Hollywood. He meets a girl who's a Marilyn Monroe impersonator, and he has a huge crush on Marilyn Monroe. So you can see where that's going to go.
sure.
And he's like a young Roddy McDowell.
He is. It's Dennis Christopher,
Yeah,
who
he
was
looks
famous
just like
for
Roddy McDowell.
what was that movie? Breaking Away, the bicycle movies.
Yeah, the big
Yeah.
Oscar type film.
Yeah, he's a total young American Roddy McDowell.
Yeah.
So you talk about horror movies, that's probably my favorite. Now, the three movies that have had genuinely scared me, only three movies that ever genuinely scared me on the edge of my seat.
Brat.
No, scared like horror movie scared.
Yes.
Not like, oh God, we're all going to die in an apocalypse
Right.
scared.
It's the end is nigh.
The
Wearing a
Exorcist.
sandwich board on Congress. Sorry, go ahead.
The Exorcist is the number one of those things. Number 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not the original, the remake.
Which I agree.
Yes.
Very
I
underappreciated.
thought it was. I loved it. I
yeah,
really did.
I was genuinely like twisting in my seat, afraid. It's like,
It
wow,
messed with me
it really.
bad.
These are movies that really picked on my genuine, hidden, true
That is a
fears.
brutal damn
getting
movie.
stuck in some small town at the
Right.
total mercy of the crazed rednecks there who know they have the complete
Because
control
that
over
totally
my fate.
happens. That totally happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, all the time.
Hey,
it's gonna happen.
try being black.
As soon as this is over, it's going to happen.
And a surprise number 3 to come in, Cloverfield.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
Jesus,
Okay.
yeah.
Scared you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because I think about when I was a kid, the things that would really scare me when I thought about him would be something huge like that. The idea of actually seeing Godzilla coming down the street, something so big and terrifying that there was really no running away from it.
Yeah.
Or
That is really fascinating.
Even there's times when when I'm full of anxiety, I have dreams of being trapped by a giant tidal wave. It's just that kind of overwhelming thing that there's no reasoning with, there's no running away from.
Right.
It's all over, and I'm
Wow.
one piece of everything. And watching Cloverfield, it really got to me.
I'm actually a big fan of the caught on tape stuff, like that scene in Signs where they first catch the glimpse of the alien from that news footage in South America.
Or Girls Gone Wild.
I am much more a fan of Girls Gone Wild than I am of airbrushed.
Or
Anyway.
the rest of Signs.
Yeah.
Or the rest of it.
Or the conceit of aliens that are allergic to water, but
There-
being down
there
to
were-
a planet that's 90% water.
There were a couple of plot holes.
We're not going to bring our weapons down here because what do they say? We're afraid they might get it and steal our technology, but you don't even bring a pointed stick or anything? Just show up naked?
I'm sorry, but I always say this about science. Like, look, it's one thing if, like, if your spaceship, like, it doesn't have the instrumentation to detect water, but with Earth, you can see water is on the planet from outer space.
It's not just on the planet.
Yeah, the whole planet is pretty much water.
I want to go in and dub like Anchorman over one of the aliens. I immediately regret this decision.
You know, it's like as Bill Hicks said, maybe they're rednecks. Maybe that's my greatest fear is that not so much if aliens are coming here or not, but if they are, what if they're idiots?
They were just beating up all those trailer parks in Oklahoma, just inviting them up to watch the intergalactic NASCAR.
I know, it's true. They always appear in the middle of nowhere, the rednecks. So once again, quoting Bill Hicks, he's like, don't you want to meet the president? He's like, no, we just had a long trip. We going to kick back and whittle some.
But no, I love that whole caught on tape where it's and it's been abused a lot lately, like with the Poughkeepsie tapes, which I hear is terrible.
Here is awful.
You know?
One of the first
And-
films to get like almost screamed out of BNAT.
and the last horror film.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really bad. You
It was
know, and then
abysmal, yeah.
the last broadcast, which I was not a fan of. I watched
It's
Blair
still
Witch
better than
recently.
Blair Witch.
No. I watched Blair Witch recently, and I think it's still really creepy.
But Blair Witch is the ripoff.
It is. It totally is. Blair Witch is a ripoff, but I think Blair Witch does it better. But there have been so many, and they're actually increasing because I guess people think that the Blair Witch moratorium is worn off. There's the whole caught on tape thing that has been ramping up lately. Paranormal Activity, I know, is one that's coming out that made a big splash at
Well,
Sundance.
of course, Wreck, which is the thing that everybody.
Oh, right,
mentions,
yeah.
Which really
You told me
is
about that.
all that in a bag of chips. It really is excellent. It uses it. See, I think there's
Diary
a lot
of the Dead.
Yeah, what I like about it is that all right, when you've got a regular horror film, we're used to the way camera setups go. If
Yeah.
something's weird or odd or
You watch
different,
enough of them,
we
you know
notice it.
what's going on.
That's the thing is like there's no tricks left in that book almost.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
with this, it's a camera that could be swinging anywhere at any time.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's just carrying it, whatever. It's so much easier to get us when there's no preparation for it.
Yeah.
Because we know all the old tricks.
It's almost like we're culturally ingrained and trained to pick up on these cues. I mean, every time there's a quote-unquote sudden car crash about to come along in a movie, I'll lean over and I'll say, okay, they're about to get in a car wreck. And sure enough, they get into a quote-unquote sudden car crash,
Right.
you know. And it's the same thing with horror movies. That you always know what's about to happen. Who's the director of the Revenge trilogy? It's Korean.
Oh, the old
Mr.
boys?
Vengeance?
Old boy, Chan-wook Park. I love it because he does something non-traditional, not a lot of cuts and stuff like that. He'll just sit there and here's the camera, here's the angle, whatever happens, happens, and there's stuff going on off camera and everything, and it actually really builds a lot of tension, without the rapid edits of Pulse or one missed call or
Yeah. Tell me about being sick of the rapid edit thing.
Yeah.
It's got its place, and it ain't in horror anymore.
Right. But yeah, I think we really need something new because we're all so used to, all of these tropes.
It's like when you're watching a movie about war or soldiers, and one guy goes, "Yeah, here's a picture of my girl back home." It's like, "Oh, dude, you're so dead."
These days, they always have to establish why they don't have cell phone access. Well, we have no cell signal out here.
Yeah.
Well, we lost our cell
Well,
phones.
you have to, though.
You have to.
You have to deal with stuff like that.
I know that. I really don't know of any way.
Well, the
around
thing
it.
is, yeah, I mean, we live in such a technological society that it's really hard to plausibly have these scenarios happen to where people are completely cut off from anything.
That's true. We need a different brand of characters in horror is the biggest thing. I think the next thing, what about those guys who intentionally go and confront it? Who are like, oh, we know it's going to be fucked up and dangerous, like aliens, right? These are guys who thought they could handle it. They went into it knowing there's going to be horror.
There's
and
another
terrible
bug
things
hunt.
happening, and they thought they could handle it, and then it was so far beyond their control. That's what works, not stupid fucking teenagers. I don't
Right.
care about them.
That's true.
I don't
Yeah.
care what movie it is. Dumb teenagers, even in the best examples of it, I'm like, wow, dumb teenagers getting killed.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
I'm not scared by that.
So
because I
recently
don't
we
care.
saw
I'm so
The
sick of
Ruins,
that.
and you had no sympathy for anybody in that movie. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you stupid rich white kids thought you could just go out there and tame the Amazon jungle. Guess what?
I wanted to point out the one thing about that movie that really was so bad. My jaw hit the floor in shock that they thought no one was going to go. The villain in the movie are the vines,
Right.
the plants, right? And they can move really fast whenever they want to. They're clearly super intelligent somehow.
Yeah.
They can mimic human voices
Yeah.
and sounds.
And cell
anytime
phones.
They feel like, cell phones, whatever. I mean, one of the most retarded monsters ever. But that being said, above and beyond that, you can buy it. That's fine. So these teenagers, they're all broken and bruised and bloody, and they've already discovered that the plants are attracted to blood. They'll go inside you, and once they do that, you're fucked. It's over.
Yeah.
Right? What do?
We all know that from
They
Evil
go to
Dead.
sleep.
They go to sleep. They don't even. It's not one of those things like the guy assigned to watch accidentally passed out because he's so tired. No, they all just. They say, "Well, we'll just sleep all in the same tent. It'll be fine."
Wow.
What? I said, "They're going really?"
Yeah, the idea that you could
Wow.
sleep even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd just have so much adrenaline. There's no way you could sleep.
Yeah.
knowing that was out there.
Exactly. I went, I just, I don't care. I mean, I'll give the movie this. It had some funny, well-done gore scenes, but that was it. That was all that movie had to offer.
That's disappointing because I heard the book was really terrifying.
I
That's what
find
it
that really
is.
hard to believe.
Just the premise alone, once again.
It's so stupid.
Did anyone get raped by a tree?
No, see, right there.
Just the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Not metaphorically, I mean literally.
Oh, no.
Anyway, that's it for another installment of League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen.
Jason, thank you for showing up for
Thank
us.
you. Had a blast.
Totally destroying your Monday evening in order to have a few beers with us. And please keep sending in your questions. Thanks again to the community for helping us out with some of your ideas. And we will see you in 2 weeks.